You know, when Airbnb first launched, people said it was the future of travel. Cheaper than hotels, more personal, live like a local, they said. But no one talks about what happens when you end up in the wrong house, when the host doesn't act right, or worse, when there's someone else in the property who was never meant to be there. These aren't urban legends, these are real stories. So if you're alone right now, maybe check behind your door, because not every Airbnb guest makes it out feeling like one. I booked the place because it was cheap, that's the honest truth. I was in town for a job interview, last minute. Barely enough notice to grab a flight, let alone fork out for a decent hotel. The listing looked clean, small house, private room, self-check-in. The host's name was Ellen. No profile picture, but 5 stars from a dozen reviews, all short and sweet. Quiet stay, convenient location, would book again. I arrived around 9:30 at night. It was raining, and the street was dim, one of those little off-grid suburbs where the street lights seemed to give up halfway down the block. The house looked older than the pictures, crumbling steps, front yard overgrown, but the keypad worked. The key was inside the lockbox, just like Helen said. No one was home, or at least, that's what I thought. Inside it smelled like furniture polish and damp carpets. Not awful, just lived in. The living room was cluttered, framed jigsaw puzzles on the wall, a lamp with a floral lampshade that gave off the ugliest yellow light I've ever seen. But it was quiet, and I was tired. I dumped my bag in the guest room, brushed my teeth, and crawled into bed. That's when I noticed a noise, a creak above me. Now, I don't spook easily. I've lived in flats, paper-thin walls, and neighbours who sounded like they were bowling at midnight, but this was different. It was one single, deliberate creak right above the guest room, then silence. I stared at the ceiling, held my breath, waited for another sound. Nothing. Eventually, I convinced myself it was just a house settling. All the places do that, right? The next morning, there was a note on the kitchen counter. Neat handwriting, curly cursive. Welcome, I'm Helen. I was out late, but hope everything's comfortable. Please feel free to use the kitchen. The upstairs is private. I looked up at the staircase. The door at the top was shut, deadbolt visible. Weird, but not that weird. Lots of Airbnb hosts live upstairs. Maybe she had a bedroom and an office up there, or still, I didn't see her. Not once. I made some coffee, ate a granola bar, and headed to my interview. That night, I got back around 10 PM, same deal, no lights on upstairs, no car in the drive, no sign of Helen. I figured maybe she was out again. Whatever, I didn't mind the privacy. I showered, watched some crap on my phone, then got into bed. That's when I heard it again. Creak, above me. Same spot. This time it was followed by a low shuffle, like someone moving something across a carpet. I sat up in bed. My heart rate kicked up a notch. I looked at the ceiling like it could give me answers. Held my breath. Nothing. I waited a solid 5 minutes. No more noises. Maybe she was home and just being quiet. Except, I never heard the front door, and the house was still dark when I got in. I got up and checked the hallway. No lights. Everything's too still. I opened the front door, peeked out. No car. Locked it again. Back in bed, I told myself again. It was an old house. Wood creaks, pipes groan, that's all it was. I fell asleep eventually, but it took longer than the night before. The third night is when things got strange. I got home earlier this time, around 8. Still no sign of Helen, nothing. But the staircase light was on this time. I hadn't touched it. I definitely didn't see it when I left. I called out, "Helen?" No answer. I took a step towards the stairs, then stopped myself. It's her house. I am the guest. I have no right poking around. Still, something fell off. That night, I locked the bedroom door behind me, just in case. I woke up around 3:30 AM. Not from a noise, from a feeling. That awful, prickling feeling you get when you know something's wrong. And then, the sound came. Soft footsteps directly above me. One step, then another, then a dragging sound, like something heavy being slowly pulled. Then the footsteps again. I sat up, fully awake now, goosebumps down both arms. It went quiet, then a knock. Not at my door, but the wall directly behind my bed. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I didn't move. I stared at the wall like I expected it to open up, and then nothing. I must have sat there 20 minutes, heart pounding. Eventually I convinced myself to get up. I opened the bedroom door. Hallway empty, silence. I crept towards the staircase. The light was off now, but the door at the top, the one Helen said was private, it was open a crack. Just enough to see it was completely dark beyond. I should have called someone. I should have walked out and gone to a hotel. But instead, I took one step up, then another. Each one creaked that was warning me. When I got to the top, I reached out and gently pushed the door. It opened about 6 inches, then stopped, like something was behind it. I leaned in. "Helen?" No reply. I turned on my light. What I saw made my blood run cold. The upstairs wasn't a bedroom. It was full of boxes, furniture, trash bags. But that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was the wall. One entire wall was covered in printed photos. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. All of different people, in bedrooms, kitchens, living rooms. Different houses, but all Airbnbs. You could tell from the keypads and the printed house rules on the fridges. I recognised one of the photos instantly. It was me, lying in bed the first night I arrived, taken from the closet. I ran down the stairs so fast I nearly fell, grabbed my bags, keys, phone and left. I didn't care if it was raining, I didn't care if it was nearly 4 AM. I drove to a petrol station and sat under the fluorescent lights until the sun came up. I reported the listing to Airbnb. It was taken down a few hours later. I never heard from Helen. I don't even know if it was a real name. Police followed up. They searched the house. No one was living upstairs. No one should have been living there at all. The home was owned by a man who died 2 years prior. There was no record of anyone named Helen renting it. To this day, I don't know who took those photos or how long I was being watched, but every time I stay somewhere new now, I check the closet every single time. When I booked the Airbnb, I wasn't expecting luxury. It was just a weekend getaway. Me, my girlfriend Zoe, and our dog Milo. We wanted somewhere quiet, somewhere with a yard, nothing fancy. The place we found ticked all the boxes. Small bungalow, fenced garden, pet friendly. The pictures were a bit blurry, but the reviews were glowing. The host's name was Mark. Said he lived in the city and only used the house part-time. We arrived Friday evening, just before sunset. At first glance, the place looked fine. A bit weathered, but could have used a fresh coat of paint. But the inside was cosy, wood panelling, old couches, faint smell of dust and lavender. The only weird thing was the basement. It wasn't mentioned in the listing, but the door was right there, beside the kitchen, closed, no lock. When we first arrived, Milo went straight to it, started growling. We laughed it off, thought maybe he smelled a mouse or something, but he wouldn't stop. Even after we unpacked and settled in, he kept sitting by the basement door, whining quietly. I opened it just to show him it was fine. It was dark, steep wooden stairs leading into a pitch black. I tried a light switch, nothing. I turned back to Milo. See? Just a spooky basement, nothing down there. But as I shut the door, I noticed something. There was a mirror at the very bottom of the stairs. Old, ornate, gold trimmed. It was angled just right that, when the door opened, it caught your reflection, and mine was off. I don't mean I saw a ghost or anything like that, but for a half a second, it looked like I was smiling. Except I wasn't. It was gone almost instantly, like a trick of light. Still, it rattled me enough to make a joke about it to Zoe. She rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic. Milo didn't agree. He refused to go near the basement the whole weekend. That night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps, not above us, below. Slow, heavy steps, like someone walking around in the basement. I sat up, heart already pounding. Zoe was out cold beside me. Milo was sitting at the end of the bed, staring at the bedroom door, ears alert. I got up, grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and crept into the hallway. The basement door was still shut. I pressed my ear against it. Silence. I held my breath. Nothing. I unlocked it, opened it slowly, and aimed a light down. Empty stairs, still no bulb working. At the bottom, the mirror stared back at me, and this time, I swear to God, there was a figure behind me. I spun round, nothing there. Back to the mirror, nothing, but my pulse was racing. I shut the door, and I locked it this time, crawled back into bed and lay there until the sun started coming through the curtains. I didn't tell Zoe what I saw. I didn't want to freak her out. We had one more night and I figured I'd just ignore it. That was a mistake. The next day was normal. We went for a walk, had lunch in town, came back and watched a movie. Zoe asked about the basement when she caught Milo whining again. I played it down, said it was creepy but harmless. Probably just some junk down there. She asked if I wanted to check it out for peace of mind. I said no. I wish I'd said yes. That night, she went to bed around 11. By midnight, I was wide awake again. But it wasn't footsteps this time. It was whispering, barely audible, coming from under the floorboards. I got up again, slower this time. Walked to the kitchen. The basement door was wide open. Not unlocked. Open. The door at the bottom of the stairs was reflecting the ceiling light and something else. Movement. Like someone swaying side to side. I stood there frozen. Then a voice, clear as day from behind me. You shouldn't have opened the door. I turned around, nearly slipping. No one there. The hallway was empty. I looked back at the mirror and saw myself still standing there, but my reflection was smiling. That same eerie smile I saw the first night. I slammed the door shut and pushed kitchen table in front of it, ran to the bedroom and shook Zoe awake. We're leaving. Now. She thought I was joking until the basement door slammed open again. We both froze. Milo barking like mad. Then footsteps coming up the stairs. Slow. Deliberate. Zoe screamed. I grabbed my keys and phone and I dragged her out the front door. We drove to a motel, slept with the lights on. Didn't go back. The next morning I called the host. No answer. Messaged him. Nothing. Eventually I reported it to Airbnb. Told them there was someone in the house. That's when it got even weirder. They suspended the listing, told me the owner hadn't used his account in over a year, said it had been reactivated recently, but the contact details were out of date. No one knew who had posted it. The real owner, according to property records, had died last summer. A few weeks later I got a message. No name, no number, just this. You looked in the mirror. It looked back. I moved out not long after, and I haven't booked through Airbnb since. I don't usually travel alone, but this was supposed to be a reset trip. One of those clear your head kind of weekends. Work had been rough. I just ended a 3-year relationship and I needed space to breathe. The Airbnb was perfect. A converted farmhouse in the countryside. Miles from anywhere, no neighbours, no traffic, just fields, silence, and a wood-burning stove. The host Lorraine messaged me the night before I arrived. Said the key would be under the frog-shaped rock by the back door. Said she wouldn't be around during the stay, but to message if I needed anything. It was all simple enough, or at least it should have been. The house was beautiful. Old stone walls, exposed beams, a fireplace that actually worked. Even had a hammock out the back strung between 2 trees. But there was one thing that felt off. It was this book, an old leather guest book left on the hallway table. The first page had a note written in neat handwriting. Please sign the guest book. We love hearing your stories. At first I didn't think much of it. Most Airbnbs have some kind of welcome binder or notebook, but this one was different. Pages were full, not just a few great stay notes. I'm talking dozens of entries, some spanning multiple pages. Some were years old, others looked fresh. That night I poured a glass of wine and started flipping through it. Most of the entries were normal. Lovely spot, great for a romantic weekend, amazing view for the stars. Then I hit one that made me pause. Woke up to someone walking in the hallway. Thought it was my wife. She was asleep beside me. It was written in shaky handwriting. I laughed it off, figured maybe someone had a sleepwalking scare. Turned the page, another entry. Heard breathing outside the window last night. No one was there. Left early. Sorry for not cleaning up. The entry was signed only with a single initial, just D. Now I was properly unsettled. I flipped to the back. The last few pages had been ripped out, just torn straight down the spine. I put the book away and went to bed. That night, I didn't sleep well. I kept hearing things, not loud, not even clear, but present. Little taps, faint floorboard creaks. At one point I swore I heard footsteps in the upstairs hallway. But here's the thing, the house only had 1 floor. The next morning I messaged Lorraine, "Hey, just checking. Has anyone else stayed here recently?" There's a lot of entries in the guest book and it seems like more people than the listing says. She replied about 20 minutes later. Hi. No, it's been empty for about 6 weeks. You're the first one since February. That didn't make sense. There were entries dated March, even one marked April. I asked about, she didn't respond. I tried to brush it off, went for a walk, read a book outside, tried to relax, but I couldn't stop thinking about the missing pages. That night, I poured another glass of wine and sat back down with a guest book. Flipped through again, slower this time. Some entries were downright creepy. Something watches me from the woods. Don't look in the mirror after midnight. There's a door behind the wardrobe. It wasn't there before. I stood up and walked over to the bedroom, moved the wardrobe. Nothing behind it. Still, I was rattled. Who writes stuff like that in a guest book? It was a joke? Some weird Airbnb tradition? Then I found the most recent entry. It wasn't dated, it wasn't signed, it just said, I thought I was alone. That night was the worst. I kept waking up first at 1:12 AM, then again at 3:03. Each time, the same thing. I'd heard something. Movement, not inside the house, but not outside either. Like someone walking on the roof, or just under the roof. But there was no attic, no basement, just cold stone under the floorboards. I finally fell asleep around 4 AM. The next morning, I was ready to leave. Forget the weekend, I'd had enough reset. I started packing. That's when I heard it. A thump. Heavy, deliberate, coming from the hallway. I stepped out. The guest book was on the floor, wide open, not where I'd left it. And this time, the missing pages, they were back, but they weren't empty. They were filled with fresh ink, and they were all written in the same handwriting, the same shaky scrawl. The messages weren't stories, they were warnings. Don't stay more than 2 nights. He comes if you write in the book. I made the mistake. He watches through the words. He reads whatever you write. The last page was almost entirely blacked out in thick pen, except for one line at the bottom. If you're reading this, it's already too late. I ran, didn't even finish packing, left clothes, chargers, everything. Drove 2 hours straight without stopping. Pulled into a supermarket car park and sat there with the door open just to hear normal sounds again. I didn't message Lorraine again, didn't leave a review, but a few weeks later I checked the listing. It was gone. Removed completely, no trace of the address, no trace of the name. It was like it never existed. A few months after that, a friend sent me a Reddit post. Title was Weird Things Found in Airbnb Guest Books. The top comment, a photo of the exact same page I had read that last morning. If you're reading this, it's already too late. Same handwriting, same layout, different house, different host, different country, but the same page.